Joining us right now on the program, as he does about every other week, with a check-in with Congressman Jay Obernolte. He represents California's 23rd Congressional District. You can give him a follow at Jay Obernolte. Congressman, good morning.
Jen, Grant, happy Monday.
Happy Monday. We're ready. We're hitting the ground running this week. But Grant and I are looking at each other. We're a little slow, but we're picking up steam right now. Okay, exactly. So we're ready. And Congressman, you were on Fox News this last week because of this empty detention center that is in California. ICE is apparently extending its evaluation of this facility because it could hold 2,000 illegal immigrants. Tell us what you're doing, what the story is on this facility, because I think both of us are not too familiar with it. This is out in Obernolte, California, right?
That's right, and it's just a ridiculous situation, Jen. So there's an ICE facility out there with, as you say, nearly 2,000 beds, and right now there are fewer than 10 of those beds being used, despite the fact that taxpayers are on the hook for about 600 of those beds every single day. And we've got the situation at the southern border where the Biden administration is claiming that they're releasing immigrants into our communities because there is no bed space to detain them, and yet we've got this facility sitting there completely unused. It's a result of a court order that the administration has chosen not to fight. It's been lifted at every facility across the country except for the one at Obernolte, and so we're fighting to get that situation resolved.
What's the chance of that happening, or is Mayorkas standing in the way? And also, I guess that would piggyback on that is, where do you stand on this impeachment of Mayorkas?
Well, it's actually there's some hope. On the Obernolte facility, we've been pushing very hard. I've led a bunch of inquiries and letters and demanding that ICE go to court, get the court order lifted, and start using the beds that taxpayers are already paying for. And recently, ICE issued another stay of closure for that facility, so they're going to continue to fund the facility and hopefully fight this court order to get it open. Now, to answer your question on Mayorkas, that's going to be very interesting this week. The Homeland Committee is going to be marking up articles of impeachment. You and I talked about this, Grant, two weeks ago. I'm a strong supporter of impeaching Mayorkas. I think he deserves it. He's clearly broken the law. Federal law requires that, among many other things, any applicant for admission to the United States who is not clearly and beyond a doubt entitled to be admitted, it says, shall be detained for removal proceeding. And he admitted the other day that over 85% of the migrants that they encounter at the border are being released into our communities. But I mean, I want to set everyone's expectation. If the House passes articles of impeachment, they go over to the Senate. A 2/3 vote of the Senate is required to remove him. And given the makeup of the Senate, that's just not happening. So, I think we need to set everyone's expectations on what's going to occur here.
It is good to figure out, though, that what's going on, because we know that the problem isn't just Mayorkas. Yes, he's terrible. He's asking to be impeached, but he's also doing what he's told. He's actually using the Biden ideology to push forth whatever this open border nonsense is. And the Senate, speaking of that, Congressman, is, there's been the rumors that they're doing this deal, this backdoor deal, but the House already has H.R. 2. And truly, President Trump has said it. I think we all agree. Biden could secure the border in a better way than he's doing without any bills. He doesn't need anything additionally. He just wants to use this to get more funding for Ukraine and other pet projects of his.
Yeah, I mean, you're absolutely right about that. Look at what the Trump administration did that worked. Right. He instituted a policy of remain in Mexico, where if you want to apply for asylum in the United States, you're required to stay where you're at until your application is approved, not cross the border illegally. He ended the policy of catch and release, which was just incentivizing people to come across the border because they knew that even if they were going to get caught, they were going to be released here. Biden can do any of those things right now. He doesn't need congressional authorization.
Oh, you there?
Yep, I'm here.
Yeah. No, he doesn't. And in fact, I would offer up, he doesn't need a bill at all. This bill that you guys are debating is not a border security bill. It's an immigration processing bill. He wants hundreds of judges, thousands of more agents to process migrants. It has nothing to do with securing our border.
Well, and I wish more people would be talking about my biggest problem with this bill, and that is the spending. Right, it is a request for supplemental spending from the White House. And when you hear the word supplemental, I wish everyone would think deficit spending, because that's what it is. We had a deal last year that the Fiscal Responsibility Act that enacted the largest reduction in non-defense discretionary spending in the history of our country. And it was it was a modest amount of spending reduction, but at least for the first time in a generation, we were all agreeing, the House, the Senate, and the White House, to reduce federal spending. And yet, a couple of months later, the Biden administration comes along and requests $100 billion of extra spending. I mean, it's just not credible that they didn't know that this spending was going to be needed. They should have built it into the original deal. So I wish more people were talking about that, because that's my biggest problem with it.
You know, it's interesting as we talk through all of this stuff. I think for a while, Biden thought he was going to skate on this. This is turning into the biggest issue for voters during this election, Congressman. And, there is something to say for Republicans slow walking, because strategically this doesn't look good for Democrats. But we know everybody wants to fix the problem. What would fix the problem could you see that Biden could come to the table with that would actually make this better today?
Well, I mean, H.R. 2 was the House's comprehensive immigration solution. And when we put it together, that's the question we asked ourselves. What would fix the problem? So H.R. 2 would fix the problem. But unfortunately, the Biden administration is never going to swallow that. But I want to push back on something that you just said. I mean, I don't think that as Republicans and conservatives, we should be doing anything for political reasons. We should be doing what's best for the country, and the political reasons are secondary. So I know Biden is desperate to get an immigration fix, because voters have started to notice this issue that's been in place for the last 18 months at the southern border. But, as you say, he can do that without supplemental authorization or funding from Congress.
All right, so let me push back on you, but I'm not really, because I think you're going to agree with me. He doesn't want to fix. This bill isn't about a fix. This bill is about legalizing what he's doing. 2 million more illegals, 5,000 a day in this bill.
He's fixing the breaking.
He literally doesn't want to fix the problem. He just wants to pretend that he's done something, but this doesn't do anything to fix the issue.
So we're in furious agreement on the fact that he needs something to point to, right? He needs to point to something and say, hey, look, see, I'm doing something. Don't be mad at me. Right? That's what this is about.
That's right.
That's right. He wants to look like he's working on it. But we know that this is so intentional, and it's beyond Mayorkas. It becomes his whole administration's plan, and then you wonder what's at the bottom of it. Congressman Jay Obernolte, always love having you here. He represents California's 23rd Congressional District. Give him a follow at Jay Obernolte on all the social media platforms, and we'll check in with you again in a couple weeks. Congressman, thank you.
Absolutely. Have a great week, Jen. Grant.
You too. Thanks.